There are some stories that don't just begin with a simple introduction. Some stories grab you by the heart and demand that you stop everything and listen. This one begins on a cold evening when a powerful man, known for building an empire of steel and glass, found himself helpless, not in a boardroom full of rivals, but in front of the tear-streaked face of his little girl. The man who commanded hundreds of employees with just a single word, who was used to controlling outcomes, suddenly realized that in the quiet corners of his own home, he was utterly powerless. His daughter's laughter had been fading for months, ever since her mother passed away. She barely smiled, she barely spoke, and when she sat by the grand piano her mother once played, her small hands froze in silence. That night, he whispered to himself, "I can buy her the world, but I can't buy back her joy." He knew then that he had to find a way to bring music back into her life, even if it meant hiring the best teacher money could buy. He didn't know that fate would play a cruel yet beautiful trick, that the teacher who showed up at his mansion gate wasn't the one he had arranged, but a woman carrying her own scars, her own broken dreams, and a child who depended on her as much as his daughter depended on him. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love and healing, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to StoryNest. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories to you. Ethan Hale was the kind of man people admired from afar but feared up close. The newspapers called him a self-made titan, the CEO who never faltered, the man with a sharp jawline and sharper decisions. But behind the polished suits and commanding presence was a father whose heart cracked a little more each day watching his daughter, Lily, drift further away into silence. She was only 9, yet the shadow of loss had aged her. He thought music might bring her back, remembering how her mother once filled their home with melodies. So, he spared no effort, arranging for one of the city's most prestigious piano teachers to come in. But on a rainy afternoon, as thunder rolled across the skyline, the wrong teacher walked through his door. Her name was Clara Bennett, though Ethan didn't know it then. She was late, shivering from the storm, her clothes slightly worn, her hands trembling as she clutched a soaked resume. Ethan's first instinct was irritation. He didn't tolerate mistakes. But Lily, timidly hiding behind the staircase, peeked out at the stranger. Clara bent down and smiled at her with a warmth Ethan hadn't seen in months, and something in his daughter's eyes flickered alive. Ethan, though skeptical, let her in, telling himself it was only temporary until the right teacher came. Clara's story was hidden behind her steady smile. She was a single mother too, raising a 5-year-old boy, Max, in a cramped apartment where she juggled 3 part-time jobs just to keep the lights on. Music had once been her dream, she was meant for grand stages, but life had stolen that when her partner abandoned her before Max was even born. Still, she held on to music like a lifeline, teaching wherever she could, not because it paid much, but because it was the only piece of herself she hadn't lost. The first lesson was awkward. Clara didn't follow rigid structures or expensive methods like the elite teachers Ethan had interviewed. Instead, she asked Lily about her favorite memory of her mother, and when the little girl whispered about how her mom used to hum lullabies, Clara suggested they try to play those songs instead of stiff classical pieces. Ethan watched from a distance, arms folded, ready to dismiss her if she failed. But then, he heard something, Lily's laughter, soft and cautious, breaking the silence of grief for the first time in months. It startled him more than any business shock ever had. Weeks passed, and Clara kept returning. Ethan noticed she never asked for payment up front, often refusing extra money he offered, simply saying, "Lily reminds me why I love music." He also noticed how tired she looked when she thought no one was watching, how she sometimes winced when her phone buzzed, clearly worrying about her son back home. Despite his guarded nature, Ethan began to see through the cracks in her composure. She wasn't just a teacher. She was a fighter, carrying burdens too heavy for her fragile frame. But life doesn't hand out miracles without trials. One evening, Clara fainted during a lesson, her body finally giving in to exhaustion. Ethan carried her to the couch, alarmed, and in that moment Max appeared, her little boy, waiting outside in the rain because she couldn't afford a babysitter. Ethan, usually harsh and detached, felt something stir inside him. He saw not weakness, but resilience. A woman sacrificing everything, giving love she could barely afford to give. For the first time in years, he wanted to help, not with money, not with power, but with presence. Slowly, their lives intertwined. Clara brought laughter back to Lily's world, while Ethan quietly began supporting Clara and Max without her realizing. He sent groceries anonymously, arranged for Max's school supplies, and when Clara found out, her pride pushed her to resist. But Ethan told her softly one evening, strength doesn't mean carrying everything alone. She didn't reply, but tears filled her eyes. As months went on, Lily began to blossom. Her music returned, her smile brightened, and she even performed at a small recital, dedicating the piece to her mother. Ethan sat in the audience, watching his daughter's soul heal through the music Clara had nurtured. At the same time, he saw Clara differently now, not just as a teacher, not even as a single mother struggling, but as a woman who had unknowingly taught him the one thing his wealth never could, how to love again. Yet, challenges remained. Ethan's business rivals mocked him for fraternizing with someone beneath his status. Clara's own insecurities whispered that she wasn't worthy of a man like him. Their worlds didn't belong together, or so they thought. But every time Ethan saw Lily hug Clara after lessons, every time Max called Ethan Mr. Hale with shy admiration, the walls between them weakened. What began as an accidental hiring mistake had become a bridge between two broken families, mending them into something whole. The turning point came on Lily's birthday. She sat at the piano and played a song she had secretly practiced with Clara, a song her mother used to play. As her small fingers danced over the keys, Ethan's eyes filled with tears. He realized then that Clara hadn't just taught his daughter music, she had given them back the heartbeat of their home. And when Clara stood beside her son in the corner, smiling with pride, Ethan saw the family he never knew he was searching for. By the end of that evening, as laughter filled the once empty mansion, Ethan looked at Clara and finally understood, sometimes, the wrong person walking into your life is exactly the right one. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to StoryNest for more stories that heal the soul. Your engagement helps us continue bringing these emotional journeys to life.